Quick review. I have 4 ways to prove triangles are congruent. Right, 4 theorems. So what's one of those that I can use? So what is one of the theorems that I can use to prove triangles are congruent? Like with the 3 letters. So side, side, side is 1. Right. Side, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. It's the last one. Angle, side, angle. So those are the only 4 ways you can prove triangles congruent. We don't have angle, angle, angle. We don't have angle, side, side. Right? It's just these 4. So I know some of you have seen the ones on assignments or lesson quizzes where all the angles are marked congruent. If that's all I know, I can't prove anything because I need to have at least one side. So only using those 4. So what we're going to take today is we're going to take that idea of proving them congruent, and then there's another thing that we end up doing, and that's proving that corresponding parts are congruent. So basically, if I'm saying what does corresponding parts of congruent triangles means? It just means that if you can prove all the triangles congruent, anything that's not labeled congruent, we can prove, right? We're going to do 2 examples. It's going to be, I think you guys will be shocked at how straightforward this last step is. So the examples that you're going to see now is instead of it saying, so before we had the givens, we checked those, labeled what we knew that wasn't labeled, and then the prove said prove triangle 1 is congruent to triangle 2, right? These types get a little different. So now here, we're given this stuff over here, but now it says prove that KB and AC are congruent, right? So let's just start with, actually, not yet. So let's start with checking off that the given stuff is labeled. So is KBC and ACB labeled as congruent? So KBC is that angle, ACB is that angle. Are those 2 labeled that they're congruent?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? They each have one of those. This tells me that angle K is congruent to angle A. 2 marks and 2 marks, so I'm good. So now that's where I check for where I think you thought I was going earlier. Shared sides and vertical angles. So do I have either one of those?
Yeah, shared side.
I have a shared side, right? So I can label that.
Just be on the side.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
So let's look. We have 2 we have 2, right? 2 options. So first thing I want to say is that triangle KCB is congruent to triangle ACB by. So Scott says angle side angle, right? Alex was saying angle angle side. So that's when I look at what order do I go in. So if I start at K, angle, angle and a side, I have angle, angle and a side. So both of those are valid options. What tells us that it would be one over the other?
Not in between 2 angles. It's not in between 2 angles.
So this, remember how if it's angle side angle, this side has to be in between the 2 angles? So it's not, right? Because that would be KB
See, I was picturing
and AC.
like, being between both angles of K and A. Like, it can't work that way.
So it does work that way, but I think differently than what you're thinking. So when I've gotten rid of it and said it can't be angle side angle because it's not in between, if I want to check to make sure Alex is right, I know I have angle angle side, right? I want to look, is the side that's congruent across from the same angle, corresponding angles? So this is across from the one with 2 lines, this is across the one with 2 lines. So that's why that one works. Does that make sense? Okay. So now, that's what we've been doing, right? So we said angle, angle, side. So now I know that, right? If I look, is KB and AC, are those corresponding sides in these triangles? Dylan says yes. Anybody agree with him? Do KB and AC correspond? Are they in the same position? Yeah. And since I wanted to prove those right, if I know the two triangles are congruent, I can say that these two are congruent because they're corresponding. So all you ever have to write for this is by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. CPCTC. That's all I have to write for those ones. Right? Because their corresponding parts are in the same spot. I know they're congruent. So I can say that by that acronym. Right? I don't expect you to write out corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. It's too much. So not too bad, right? I told you this wouldn't be as bad. So look at one example, and then you have almost an hour to do a short worksheet and get caught up on anything that you need to get caught up on. All right. So this tells me, given that BA is congruent to DA and CA is congruent to EA, I'm going to prove that C and E are congruent. So I look over here. Is BA congruent to DA? Is that labeled over here? Yes. Yep, right. I have BA, DA. Good. How about CA and EA?
Yes.
Yep. So is there anything else I can label that I know but isn't told? Vertical angles. So I'll label those. So my first step is to say what are the triangles. This is where you'll get some practice naming them, right? So if I said, I'm going to name this triangle as ABC, what would be the order that I have to go in for the other one?
ADE.
What?
ADE.
Yeah, ADE, right? So I don't know how those are congruent. So, Trevor, can you tell me how those two triangles would be congruent? Anybody disagree with Trevor?
No.
Oh, good. I have side, angle, side. So I can say congruent by side, angle, side. Like that. So double check. Are C and E corresponding angles?
What?
Are C and E corresponding to angles?
Yeah.
Remember how I can check that? C's in the third spot. E's in the third spot. Those are corresponding, right? That goes back to that first lesson we did. So I can prove they're congruent by what? CP.